Hey guys, Kirk here, and thank you for joining me on a new video on the channel. In this week's video I want to cover edge blending for our mask that we created last week, and I also want to make an additional material layer that's going to sit within the dirt layer. The additional material layer is already built up, we just need to apply it into our logic today. And what that extra material layer is going to do, it's just going to break up this dirt layer. As you can see, I've, made it clearly visible about the dirt layer versus the grass layer. It's obviously not a permanent fixture, but like I say, we're going to add an additional dirt layer in here, so we get a nice blend between two layers in one dirt layer. And like I say, we're going to do the edge blending. Before we get started, as usual, I do want to thank everyone who subscribed and liked the videos and showing the support that way. I do have a new Discord where the link will be in the description, so feel free to go ahead and join that. And also I want to really thank everyone who has joined the membership program and showing their support that way. A copy of this project and the landscape shader is going to be available for level 2 members in my membership program, and you will get a link to this project either later today or tomorrow. And feel free to do with it what you wish. I would ask not to share it with anyone though outside the membership program, and show your support that way. If you're interested in getting a copy of this project and the landscape shader itself, ignoring what's on screen right now because I've accentuated it so to make it clearly visible what the differences are, but you can make them changes inside the shader. But yeah, if you want a copy of this shader, then feel free to join the level 2 membership program, and that project, or this project, will be updated every month following the tutorials I do. So yeah, thank you very much to everyone who is showing their support, and let's get on with the video. So in last week's video we created our function, our flat ground main, and this sits inside our automatic function as just a ground layer, which is the grass. And we made the addition of this flat ground mask, which is going to blend these two layers together, which you'll see is dirt C and grass A, and that's what is driving that blending, which is this. If we go into the flat ground mask, you can see it comprises of a Perlin noise texture, and we're breaking it up, adding contrast and intensity, and then we're going to clamp it on the way out. What I want to do is, like I say, make an addition to support edge blending. So all we have to do is to highlight all of these and left control and D and make a duplication of that. And we just need to add it in here. But what I'm going to do first is to change the names of these. So here you'll see, similar to the top one, we have flat ground mask UVs. And what I want to do is to, just at the end, or maybe not at the end actually, so I'll go flat ground space edge, oh, caps lock is on, my bad, edge mask UVs. So I'm just going to double click on the word edge, left control and C, make a copy of it, and then click on this one, and in between the, we'll get rid of the _1 and we'll put edge here, and then we can go away and click off that and change that name. We'll do the same for this final input, just to add the word edge in there, and we can clearly see which are the edge controls and which are not. What I would like to do is to create a separation, so I'm going to right click and type input and get a function input. This can be of any input type as it's just a placeholder, and in the input name I'm just going to put a load of little equals, similar to another function I did a couple of weeks ago. And what we need to find is our set priorities. So here is a set priority is 0, then we have 1, then we have 2. This can be 3, and then these UVs can be 4, this one can be 5, and this can be 6. So now outside this function we're going to have these controls here. It's going to be separated by this, and then we'll have these controls, and we can clearly tell apart which ones are which. But now what we need to do is to get them to blend together. And what I want essentially with the dirt mask here. Imagine this dirt mask is in a circle. It's got its grass, which is here. Its grass layer, which is our main layer. You can see everywhere. And then we've added the addition of the dirt layer. And that dirt layer is broken up by a purling noise, which is sat on top of our grass layer. And essentially with the edge blending, what I want the edge blending to affect is the edge of our dirt layer. So it does need to be blended in here with these. And imagine, just try and imagine the dirt layer as a circle. If I was to add these in with an add node, like so, and add them in, then that edge blend circle, if you imagine, would start from inside the dirt layer. And then once you increase its values, it will push out to the edge. Now that would change the concept of this dirt mask. So essentially I need to reverse that. I don't want to add the blending in, I want to subtract the blending in. And when you subtract the blend for the edge into this, you're essentially subtracting in the edge from the outside inwards. So the more you increase the values of our edge blending, it will move its way inside the dirt layer. That will all become apparent quite soon, but the concept that we've worked out is that we need to subtract these in. And I still want the output from the material with the clamp, because the clamp is clamping between 0 and 1, and I want that to happen after all the logic is made up. So I'm just going to simply join this multiply up to the A input, and then the output, the subtract, will go in there, like so. We do need to do this for the height as well, but with the height it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm just going to drag these in here, and this would have to come into the same output as well. But the difference is with the height, if we was to blend the height with the subtract node and blend it in towards the dirt layer, it would then essentially duplicate the height blending. So at some point when we're making the additional values in our edge blending, it would then match up with the height of our how can I say this, with our material layer. So essentially all we need to do for that is just to invert it. So I'm going to right click and get a 1 minus. I'll get this 1 minus node and then drag that into there, and that'll go into the subtract node. And like I say, that essentially is going to flip our heights blend, so they won't match up equally. And if I go ahead and hit apply here now, and I come out of this function, I'll just save it, just bear with it a moment. This shader's probably getting a little expensive now, so I do need to look at virtual textures, but that is for the future. And if I come outside this function now, you'll see that I've got my flat ground mask UVs and my flat ground edge mask UVs and the remainder of the options. So I need to essentially just put parameters in here. I'm going to right click on each input and just get rid of that S at the end in brackets. This is going to be my edge. Right click here, promote to a parameter, and we'll delete that S in brackets. And I'll do the same here. Like so. And there we go. And now we've got more parameters involved here. So I'm going to highlight these. These are already set to a group, which is 0 important material controls. And essentially I want these to be near it. So I'm going to add them to it. But I'm going to set the priorities. So my flat ground mask UVs is going to be 1. Then flat ground mask intensity will be 2. And in fact, guys, now I'm doing this, I've got an idea actually. I'm going to use vector 4s for our options, just to keep them compact. So I'm going to go ahead and press 4 on the keyboard and hold it down, left click, create a vector 4. And then I'm going to right click on that vector 4 and convert to a parameter. And I can call this flat ground. Flat ground blending controls, like so. And then I can simply duplicate that, and in there I can just put edge blending controls. Nice and simple. And essentially now, if we open up or click on our Vector 4, you can see at the bottom here I have channel names. I have utilised this before in the past, so if you've watched the whole series, this will not be new to you, but for the people who are just approaching my channel, then this is kind of a thing that I like to do, just to keep a lot of options compact. And you might open it and it looks like this. If you look at the bottom, just click on channel names, then the red, green and blue channel along with the alpha will become available. So what I'm going to do is just click on each of these scalar parameters, highlight them all, left control and C, make a copy, and then put these into the channel names with left control and V. Dead simple, and I'm going to do that for each scalar parameter, and then essentially transferring these scalar parameters inside these vector 4s. So I am actually going to speed the video up because this can be time consuming, even though there is not a lot of options really. Okay, so now that is done, I can simply just drag our pins into here, like so. Just like we have done with our scalar parameters. And then just drag them where they need to go, like so. And what I can do now is highlight both of these and change these to that same group. And with this I could go 30. And this just makes sure these options are at the bottom of this particular category while we test. And this one can be 31. So the priority here is 30 and that is 31, and they're both in the same group. Now I've done that, I can delete these scalar parameters and just drag these up a little bit. What I want to do now is just to test that this has worked. So I'm going to hit apply. And now that compiling is saved, I can go over to the scene, and you can see that that dirt mask is it's all gone. So what I need to do is open the material instance. One way you can do that is by going to the content drawer. This is actually our material layer that we're going to be using. We're going to go to landscape shader, and you can see your material instance is there, or you can go to your outliner on landscape, and you'll see click on landscape there. If you go to details, you'll see it's not in there. So what you need to do is, if you have a landscape like mine, which is well partitioned, it's broken off into streaming proxies like so. If you want to learn about world partition and landscaping proxies and all that, then check out my other video at the beginning of this series where I do go through it. But if I click on that landscape proxy and then go to details tab, you'll see my material instance is there in the landscape material slot. You can press that little magnifying glass, it will close that off if yours is shaped like this, where I have the options docked, and then I can go in here and you'll see it highlights that material instance. So that's one good useful tip to know if you want to find your material instance. So I'm just going to double click on this and you'll see it opens out. You might get this landscape physical material needs to be rebuilt. This is quite common, it's nothing to worry about, but to get rid of that message if you want to, just click on build, go to build all landscape and just press that and you'll see that it goes. Once you start making changes again, it will come up again and all that good stuff. So you can see here at the bottom of this group, import material controls, you'll see I've got flat ground blending controls and flat ground edge blending controls. If I go ahead and open these two up like so, the flat ground blending controls, you can see that the dirt layer is gone, but if I set this to 0.0026, you'll see nothing still happens, but I do know that's the right UV scale as we set that value last week. Flat ground intensity, I'm going to start with a 1, and you should see that dirt layer starting to come back. Sharpness, I'm going to set to a 0.6 and now, and I can just go ahead and keep increasing this value until that dirt layer now appears, like so. And you can see that our edge blending is starting to break up a little bit. What I want to do is to increase that sharpness some more. and we can see it's a little bit better now. We're going to reduce the intensity of that dirt layer like so. Let's go for a 0.8. Maybe that's a little bit too much. That's a bit higher. Okay, so what I want to do now is to test our edge blending. Let me move this in a little bit so we can see what's going on. Like so. I'm going to go to the edge blending. For this, I know the value is going to be like a 0.1, like so. And we'll set a intensity of 1. And now you can see that a edge blending is coming to play. Now it's all about finding the right values in here. So as you can see how it's broken up. If I set a 0 to the intensity, you can see it's gone. If I set a 1, and then it comes back. And I can change the scale of this intensity, and you can see it breaking up here. The more I reduce it, then that breakup becomes a little bit more sparse. But the more I increase this value of the UVs, you can see the breakup happening of our edge blending. And you can also reduce the intensity just to set it back a little bit. I'm going to go for a 0.5 here. Alright, so, and don't forget you also have the sharpness, so I can increase the sharpness of our edge blending and also start increasing the edge blend itself. And you can actually see now here how we're utilizing the logic that we used for our dirt layer, and now we're utilizing it there. If I was to say increase the UVs, you can see how that dirt layer is broken up in some little chunks. If I reduce that back down, you can clearly see there. I decrease the sharpness, it'll get rid of the sharp edges around. So if I set this back to where it was, 0.0026, that dirt mask comes back, and you can see how the edge blending is utilizing the same kind of logic, but to break the edges up. So if I reduce that just ever so much, like so, and you can see how that edge blending is breaking up now. If I increase it some more, it just breaks it up, and you can see there now around the edge where it's starting to billow out here. That might not be what you want. If I put a 0.1 in here, it'll set that back to where I want it. I'll increase the sharpness and reduce the amount. But don't forget, you can always come and increase the amount of dirt layer you want. But you have that breakup on the edge there, and you have that option. It's all about just playing with these values to find the right kind of blend that you want. What I also want to do is to save that for 1 and add in the option to add this blending in or not. So I'm just going to right click and get a switch. Where are you? Parameter, there it is, static switch parameter. Forget this, and we could go enable edge blending. Do that twice. I'm going to set the default as true, and I'm going to set the group to, if we go to our previous ones here, we'll just highlight all of this, like so. Left Control and C, and come into the switch parameter. This is a Boolean, of course. You have a true or false, or in other words, yes and no. Do you want edge blending? Yes, so it will be set to true. And in the group, I'm going to left Control and V, and that's applied that group. Now what I need to do is to duplicate this, because I need one for the height and for the material itself. So from the subtract, we're going to go into true. Like so. If I drag that down, drag this up a little bit, and for the false, we're just going to go straight into there, and then we can put that into the input of our output for the height blending. Let's just rearrange this a little bit so we can see what is going on. I could also just double click on that line, the false line, and just drag that into the subtract node. Just tidies it up a little bit more so we can see, like I say, what is going on. I'll move that out so we'll see where these noodles are going, and it would be the same case for our material blend. I'm going to move that over a little bit, move this across. This output's going to go into the saturate. Do you want edge blending for your material? Yes, I do. And if you don't, you can just set it into there, like so. And what I need now is to give this a value. So in our material instance, we set these to 30, and this was 31. I want this option to be above both options, so I'll set this to 29, like so. We'll go ahead and hit apply and save. These are on by default. We'll come back to the world. You'll see we're getting these artifacts. That's just because the engine's not great. If I double click on our material instance, you'll see here I have enable edge blending. If I disable it, you'll see that edge blending disappears. It's like recompile. So, and then I can enable it again, and I'll get that edge blending. Disable it, and the edge blending goes. Okay, so I feel that's a good little technique to have. I've got my edge blending controls here. I'm going to increase that intensity just ever so much and reduce that scale. Maybe increase it actually. Cut down that sharpness just a little bit so it's kind of blending in with what is going on. Okay, so like I said at the beginning, we want to have a extra material layer that's going to be powered by this logic. I'm just going to save this. I could close that down. What I want to do is to pull this out. This will work a lot like our auto material. We'll come into the content drawer, go to layers, and like I say, this forest floor. This, if I come back to the world and I open up this texture that I found on Quixel Bridge, you can see that that texture looks kind of similar to this one. So I found that this would be a good addition to that dirt mask. I'll go back to my flat ground and just drag this in. Like I say, I've already pre-prepared it, guys. And I'll just drag this grass over here. I'm going to make a new copy of our flat ground layer blending. And this can go into our input A, and the grass can go into our B input, like so. That easy. And then once we add this layer to here, like so. So as you can see, it's doesn't look really good, but never mind. What I need to do is to apply this to our outputs, like so. And then I'm going to make a duplication of this. Let's Control and D. In fact, yeah, I do need the duplication, but what I'm going to do is set this to here. This actual mask is going to go there. We can disconnect them, and we can move these over, because these, don't forget, are our controls between our grass and our dirt layer. And these can be our controls between our forest floor and our dirt layer. If I apply them in there. For this though, we don't need to have our edge controls, or you can, but it's just adding more expense to the shader. So what I am going to do is duplicate this control, left Control and D. The set priority is 31, so I shall make this a 32, so it's below all these, and I can just simply add these in here, but I do need to change the name. What I'm going to do is flat ground. I'm going to call this dirt layer blending controls. If I highlight these, because it will have to be a different name, unfortunately. A bit fidgety. Left Control and C, make that copy. You can see I've got dirt layer blending. And what I have to do now is, I'm not sure I have to do this within a vector 4, but we could always try. And you'll see I'm not getting any errors. If I was to disconnect these, I would get, well, would I? If I open this up, you can see these inputs here have a preview set with that value. So outside this function, you won't get an error if they're not plugged in, which is great. So let's apply this and save it, and let's hope this has worked. Okay, so now that's saved and compiled, let's go back to the scene, and you can clearly see straight away that forest floor layer has overtaken. So if we go to our material instance, don't forget we can do it in the content drawer or through the landscape details panel. We'll double click this and you'll see we've got an addition at the bottom here, which is our flat ground dirt layer blending controls. And if I make this a bit smaller and just rearrange the shape, don't forget you can come to this little cog here and collapse all categories. Open the parameter groups, collapse all categories. Yeah, that's right. And I could just close these categories up if you don't want to see them. I do like to do this. Don't forget we've got our forest floor options, so it might be a good idea to get in there and change them. I'm just going to increase this and see what happens. I may need to swap the material layers about. Oh wait there, that's not going to work yet, not until I add some additional controls here. Let's add some sharpness into there. I may need, we'll go 0.5 for this. This could be a 1. You can see we're getting that intense amount, so 0.0026. And there we go. And now if I just increase this ever so much, so 0.0085, you can see how this forest floor layer has been added to our dirt layer. But I am seeing that we do need to swap these around. So we're essentially going to get this forest floor and put this into A. And then the dirt will go into B. We can always try it. If this doesn't look right, we can always swap them back around. If I hit apply now, just let the shaders compile, and there you go. A nice little addition. The shaders are still compiling, as you can see at the top left here. And then we can start rearranging this a little bit, start making that addition in there. You can reduce the intensity of it so it's more dirt, or you can increase the intensity so you're getting more forest floor. I'm going to reduce that 0.0012. That's a bit too much actually. 0.0055. And you can see now we're getting them patches, so 0.1. There you go. That is what I'm talking about. That looks brilliant. And now our forest floor is matching in. Let's decrease that a little bit. So we're just seeing that forest floor come in there a bit. If I increase the sharpness of this, and there. Looks okay. Maybe the sharpness I'm going to go for a 0.8. The intensity is going to be a 0.6. Well, maybe a bit higher actually. 0.8. And we'll just reduce. Increase intensity. There you go. And now we have a dirt layer with our forest layer inside it. I can come down here to the, where are you? Talking about forest options. I can go ahead and change the UVs. As you can see, I can go ahead and we don't need that. Change the contrast so it's a bit higher. Make it a bit darker, or you can make it lighter. Like so. The normals are okay, roughness is fine. And there we go. We're going to save that material instance and break that off, close it. And now you can see that I've got this dirt layer. The edge blending is not completely set up. I mean, the logic's there and the options are there. You've just got to play about with them options just to get that looking how you want it to look. And you've also now got a forest floor layer in there as well, which you can see the spots of here. And that, just like I say at the beginning of the video, just breaks up that material layer. Okay, so I feel that's quite a successful tutorial again. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're feeling generous, join the membership program and you'll get a copy of this landscape shader and the project itself, so you can follow along in future videos. And also jump on the Discord, make yourself known and say hello. And I shall see you in the next video, guys. Thank you.